There's no sound on that, Scott.
Yeah, there's no sound on this part.
Okay, I don't know if there'd be music or what.
I could sing. I don't know any Penguin songs though.
Okay, you've challenged me.
Norm Hughes is watching right now. Good afternoon, Scott and crew. We've been busy today. We were on earlier today with Woodland Hills Camera and Telescope talking about PMC-8 mounts. That was fun. And now we're on here, and we might squeeze in one more live stream. We're starting to do some stuff on Amazon Live. So you guys have not watched that yet. You might want to tune in to amazon.com/live.
Yeah, there's all sorts of content up there.
Right.
We've already produced how many hours of content? It's a significant
4 or
amount.
5 hours of content already. What an amazing bird the penguin is.
Yeah,
Maybe one day
absolutely.
we have an all penguin show. I think that'd be cool. We need to get somebody who's a penguin expert.
There has to be penguin experts with all
There are
sorts of.
penguin
I will chase somebody down
experts. That's right.
like a penguin going after an Arctic char or wait a minute. They couldn't be going after an Arctic char because there are no penguins in the Arctic. So how about a herring? A penguin going after a herring or a squid or something? You know, they're airplanes. You know,
Yeah, they fly in the water.
so ungainly on land, but astoundingly agile in such an inhospitable environment
Right.
to most mammals. Obviously, there are plenty of mammals
It's
that,
amazing to see how they keep themselves warm in like -100. And
yeah, that when they huddle in groups and
yeah, and they got the big group, and the guys in the middle are warmest, and so they're moving out while the cold guys are moving towards the center, and it's constantly moving like that.
because it
Really
takes a
cool.
village. It takes a village to stay warm when it's -100 degrees.
Oh yeah,
And the amount of energy they can store to endure that, 2-month-long darkness.
right.
I've seen penguins in zoos, and they're very fragrant.
What's that?
I've seen penguins in zoos a couple of times,
Yeah,
and they are very fragrant.
fragrant.
Yes, fragrant. They have a certain penguin odor.
That only a penguin mother could love. Hi,
You know,
everyone.
Yeah, I have a friend that was stationed in Antarctica for 2 summers and 1 winter,
Yeah.
and he said if you were downwind from the colony, you could smell it 30 miles away.
Wow.
Said it was overwhelming to be there until your basically nostrils burned away and you couldn't smell it anymore.
Really? It smells
Yeah.
that good.
They said it was
Wonderful.
fragrant. Yes.
Yes.
So,
Well,
hi, Scott. How you doing?
hi, Ken. How are you?
Busy day.
It is a busy day. I
Yes, it
wanted to
is.
just recognize some of the people that are already logged on here. We've got Norm Hughes who logged in first. Harold Locke is with us, saying howdy. Mike Wiesner says howdy from Clear, Arizona. Saw Comet Leonard yesterday evening, viewed with 7x50 binoculars. That's cool. Was not naked eye visible due to twilight sky and low altitude. So if you guys are out there and you got some clear skies, you definitely want to try to check out Comet Leonard. Nicolina is saying hello and good evening or good night, people. She's down in Brazil watching. Thanks, Nicolina. Harold Locke says, I'm in the middle of the Woodland Hills show. Awesome demonstration of the iXOS 100. Thank you very much, Harold. That's cool. We have Beatrice Hines. She says, hi, birdies, finally arrived home. That's great. Thanks, Beatrice, for watching. And who else? Jim's Astro's watching. And that looks like all that's chatting right at the moment. But for all of you that aren't chatting and are watching in the background, welcome to On the Wing. This is a special, albeit short, holiday bird presentation. So, Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you, man.
Before we get started with the birds, next week is our 25th episode, and it is the week of Christmas. So I know there's many other holidays out there around the solstice. So since that's the closest show to the solstice, I'm feeling generous, and we're going to give away a pair of binoculars next week. And
Nice.
we're gonna do it the same way we're gonna do it on our 62nd episode of First Light Chronicles. Everyone who is on the show has to comment. So this is you got to be present to win. You got to comment. You just got to say hello, anything, right? So we'll see your name, and then at the end of the show, and next week's show is going to be reader submission or viewer submission.
Don't forget, Kent, they also have to be an Explore Alliance member. They
Correct.
can join up for free.
Yep.
But you do have to be a member.
Right. Have to be an Explore Alliance member. You're going to just say something in the chat after we go through the normal presentation, which are going to be reader submissions. Got some really beautiful birds from, I think, 3 or 4 different people next week. We will then, Scott will play one of his videos of, birds doing something. And while he's doing that, we'll real quickly write down everybody's name in a spreadsheet and then use a random number generator. And if your name is on line 13 and the random number generator pops up number 13, voila, you're a winner. And so then we'll get your, because you will be a Explore Alliance member, we can look you up on our website and we will have the shipping. Now then, if you happen to live overseas, you're going to be responsible for shipping and taxes, but it's going to be less than buying a new pair of binoculars. So you don't have that expense involved. So it's still a pretty good deal, but you've got to have that money to do it. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to give away a pair of binoculars. Haven't decided what. They're not going to be our $1,800 Alpine binoculars. So I'm thinking about the HS 8x42s is sort of what I'm thinking about doing. We've got a stock of those. So they're really nice binoculars. So without further chit chat, move my screen up so I can see my share button here and share sound and share screen.
And Kent, I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, Scott, I'll take off.
Okay.
So, are we good there?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we're good. So I'm experimenting with a different configuration on my 2 screens to make things go. There we go. So welcome to On the Wing, weekly broadcast from Alpine and Bresser. So this is holiday birds, solstice, winter solstice, or December solstice. I'm trying to, because we're a global audience, I'm trying not to be Northern Hemisphere centric. I'm trying to talk about the December solstice and, the June solstice as opposed to summer and winter, because For all of our friends, including one who's watching in the Southern Hemisphere, this is the summer solstice coming up for them. So this is the December solstice show. So first off, Merry Christmas. This is a photo Sheldon Fawarski took. This is best guess is a female house finch. If you were watching a few episodes ago, we went into great detail about the difference between house finches and purple finches, and it's a challenge to identify them both. We believe this is a female house finch. So here we go. We're going to listen to them first, then jump in about it. So the loud one you hear is the male. And he's just giving her what for. If that was me, I'd pay for that kind of talk right there. There we go. And you hear in the background right there another bird we're going to talk about. So the female just has a sort of a just a chip note, just a chip note. And female house finch, as we can see here, is a drab brown bird with a row of black feathers down its back. Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
I like this stuff because we did, Northern Hemisphere fall photos, giving inspiration up with pumpkins and gourds and stuff. And this is, another sort of thematic thing that Sheldon does. So a row of feathers down its back and blurry streaks down the belly, and it has a notched tail. It's 5 to 5.5 inches long, which makes it about the same size as a house sparrow. And as we've discussed before, this is very difficult to differentiate between the house finch and the purple finch. Males have rosy red on their face and upper chest with streaks of red on the belly and back. Their diet can cause a wide range of color variation between individuals. So, birds in one flock that might be liking one specific berry may, the next flock comes through, may not be feeding on those same things. And so there'll be a different color, which further muddles the identification. The birds gather in large groups, especially at feeders and perched in nearby trees. When they're cracking the seeds, they generally sit still and crush the seed using rapid bites of their powerful beaks. So sunflower seeds, you can see them sort of and the husk falls away, the shell falls away, and the seed goes down into their crop. They're often found feeding on the ground, eating plant stalks and searching for seeds. And if you have a backyard feeder, they'll both feed on the feeder and underneath, looking for seeds on the ground below. Like many finches, their flight is sort of bouncy. So I think of it as a sort of a sine wave, right? They sort of a up and down motion as they fly. Their habitat encompasses a wide range of open areas, farms, forests, parks, and yards, which frankly is typical of many birds. We can see their year-round range is western and eastern, and I find this strikingly odd. Eastern Texas, all of Kansas, it's a weird divide right there where the prairie is. So I just,
why?
Well, as Dan George says, birds really don't have boundaries. So, I think maps like this are somewhat suspect that, they're not really basically all over the place, so.
I see.
But just a cute shot of what we believe is a female house finch. So moving along to the next bird is what is probably a black-capped chickadee, okay? So there's two kinds of chickadees, a black-capped and the Carolina chickadee. And the reason I think this is a black-capped is because the black-capped and the Carolina chickadee have a very narrow overlap, according to scientists. and it crosses through southern Illinois. Well, Sheldon lives in extreme extreme northwest Illinois. And so I think because of the range where this makes this a black capped chickadee, not a Carolina chickadee. All right, so the bird is 4.7 to 5.9 inches long, which makes it a little bit smaller than a sparrow. They're cute, beautiful birds. They have a beautiful call. Let's listen to that call real quick. This is once you hear this, you can really remember it. Hey, sweetie. Hey, Phoebe. Hey, sweetie. Phoebe. Phoebe. A really high-pitched call there. There we go. That's the call I'm used to. I hear a lot. Surely a couple of chip notes followed by D-D-D. Chick-a-dee-dee-dee-dee. Chick-a-dee-dee-dee-dee. Okay, so that's chickadee, and you can hear it crow in the background as well right there. All right. Often termed one of the cutest birds out there because of their diminutive size, but just their spunkiness and that really high pitch sort. I think of it as almost a buzz. Very difficult to distinguish the males from the females. So while technically not monomorphic, they might as well be in my world anyway. Obviously named for the black cap it sports. The brilliant white cheeks contrast well with the black cap and the black bib, which is underneath its bill and chin. Its sides can be buffy and almost a rosy transition to the white belly and breast. We'll go ahead and change the range real quick. You can see the black-capped chickadee is up in the north. So in this strange line that goes up into weirdly, and we're in Northwest Arkansas right there. And I, see probably both black-capped and Carolina chickadees, but the Carolina chickadee is more of a southeastern bird. So let's go look at. Now notice this has got looks like a piece of corn or a peanut or something like that. And I think that's a cool shot right there. That what does that look like? An almond maybe? Whatever that nut is appears to be floating. It's not. What Sheldon does is he'll fill up the cup or put something in the cup so the birds can reach down and get it, and it attracts them to this beautiful cup, so you can get this seasonal picture. The black cap extends to just below the black eye, making the eye very difficult to see. And even in this picture, which Sheldon has taken using a telescope and has extremely fine detail to it, the black eye almost disappears into the black cap. They're very aerobatic, bouncing flyers that travel in flocks. When the flock arrives in a location with its distinctive flutter and buzz, 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 chickadee, dee, 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 it's just a great distinctive sound. The flocks have a hierarchy with clear dominance by a few birds. There are also birds that tend to hang out on the fringes of the flocks that scientists say move between flocks and aren't really members of that flock. They're just sort of loners. The call is complex, often termed language-like, because they can communicate a range of information from identity and recognition of flocks to predator alarms. The more D, the chickadee, dee, dee, the higher the threat level. And so they're able to communicate with each other and apparently identify each other from individuals from their distinctive calls. They enjoy a wide range of habitats, forest shrubs, woodlots, neighborhoods, parks, fields, marshes, just a really wide range of birds. They're easy to attract. The chickadee is easy to attract to feeders with suet, sunflower seeds, and peanuts. They'll use hanging feeders with no trouble. And the birds, this is one species of bird that hides seeds and forage that they find for later use. And studies have shown that they can remember thousands of hiding places. And as the summer goes along, I did a little research, didn't dig into this much, but I found multiple references to they forget the hiding places from this winter and then remember the new places. So there's a regrowth or death of some memory and regrowth of the other. So they only go to the new places every winter, which I find just fascinating. It's easy to get these birds to nest. They generally nest in willow, alder, and birch trees. They will nest in nest boxes filled with sawdust and wood shavings. You can find plans for these out there on the internet. The suggestion is, if you're going to do it, is place the nest box at least 60 feet into a wooded area to discourage wrens from trying to take over the nest box. Also, the advice is to ensure an unobstructed flight path to the nest box so they can swoop in and land and get in the nest box. During migration, it turns out these birds can be used to find other small songbirds. Other small songbirds will travel with the flocks of chickadees. And when you hear the chickadee, chickadee, and that buzzing and sort of the dee-dees, start looking for other birds, songbirds that will travel in with them whose songs may be hidden otherwise. And it's a good way to find other birds as well. Moving on, we're going to look at another bird. There's my phone ringing. We're going to look at another bird we've seen before, but always fun to cover. This is the red-headed woodpecker. It is a spectacular bird. I picked this bird to help round out the northern hemisphere sort of snowy theme we've got going on. Let's listen real quick. I listened to it and find myself listening to the birds in the background as well. Heard a white-throated sparrow, a turtle dove, and I thought I heard a meadowlark, although sort of weird to hear a meadowlark with a woodpecker. So that's the red-headed woodpecker. You can see the map. Winters in southern Texas and along the Gulf Coast into Alabama, mostly Louisiana. Breeding range is in the eastern United States, or in the northern United States around the Great Lakes and up into Canada a little bit. And breeding and wintering grounds are the eastern United States. These are large, spectacular birds, whether they're perched or in flight. They're 7.9 to 9.1 inches long. The bright red head, thus the name, is the most obvious marker. Has pure white underparts. Make that quit ringing. Has pure white underparts, a black back, and large white patches on the wings, which makes the lower back appear white when they're perched. As you can see here, it looks like the lower back is white, but when the bird takes flight, you see that it's black from the nape of its neck where the red head stops, all the way down to the tail is black. The bird catches insects by the action that earned it the second part of its name, pecking wood. They also catch insects in flight and forage on the ground. They eat fruit, nuts, acorns, and seeds. Their raspy, shrill call is very noticeable and very loud. They will visit backyard soot feeders, can also be attracted with berries, black, rasp, straw, and mull berries, grapes, cherries, apples, pears, and other fruits, as well as corn, acorns, beech nuts, and pecan. The bird requires standing timber for survival. Without standing timber, you don't have red-headed woodpeckers. Woodlands need to have an open, clear understory. The loss of this specific habitat, the standing timber, has led to a dramatic decline in the population of this spectacular bird. Weirdly, in a strange twist, in the United States in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, a huge number of elm tree were killed by Dutch elm disease, and chestnuts were killed by the chestnut blight. How did it benefit the red-headed woodpecker? You say by killing all those trees, all that standing dead timber became a giant buffet for the birds. And while all that standing dead timber was out there, it created a huge food supply and a source to help them survive. But since all those trees have the standing dead trees are pretty well gone, and habitat destruction, large woodlots have been cleared for subdivisions and other reasons. It's tougher and tougher to find red-headed woodpeckers. Interestingly, the red-headed woodpecker is one of 4 known woodpeckers that stores food. However, it's the only one, and I think we're talking about North America here. However, it's the only one to cover its food with wood or bark. And interestingly, it will store grasshoppers alive, but it's able to wedge them into crevices so tightly that the grasshoppers cannot get out and thus become, stored food for use later. So that's the red-headed woodpecker. Scott, have we had any comments you want to jump in with, or anybody else say anything?
Yeah, I mean, people are just, Norm Hughes says he's got a woodpecker in his backyard. I was asking what kind it was. He's going to try to identify it. But Jim's Astro wants to know, is the red-headed woodpecker an endangered species?
It has to be. I don't know. I can find out real quick.
And Norm says he's going with a red-bellied woodpecker.
Okay.
Interesting.
So real quick, I put in red-headed status instead of red-headed woodpecker status and caught some interesting sources.
Okay. Egon says that his sister in Minnesota has these red-headed woodpeckers.
It is near threatened. It's nearing the threatened status of its conservation status.
So many birds are, so
yeah,
humans have to get smarter about what we're doing here.
And we've talked about this before.
Sure.
If you want birds in your yard, you have to have things that birds like to eat, which are generally
insects. Yeah.
Bugs. Right. And if you're poisoning your yard to kill the mosquitoes and the bugs that bother you on the Friday or Saturday night, once or twice a month, you eat outside, the birds are suffering. The numbers of bird population. The problem is people see birds, and it's been such a slow decline for people who don't pay attention that they see birds and go, "Oh, there's plenty of robins." But they don't remember how many robins there were 30 and 40 years ago because they weren't counting and paying attention. They didn't remember how often they saw blue jays or cardinals or whatever. And so it's easy to think that, well, it's the same. There's no fewer birds, but there's vastly fewer birds out there. What else you got, Scott? Any other comments?
Beverly Selesky watching on Facebook. She says, I love my bird friends. She says, it's nice information, but I'm used to our bird friends in Detroit metro area. We're right now 60 degrees and Christmas is right around the corner.
Yeah. And, take some pictures of those birds. We welcome reader submissions. Birds in urban areas tend to be fairly tame. And so even with a smartphone, you can often get some very good pictures. In fact, I've got a couple of very good pictures of Dan George's favorite species to show
Right.
on the reader submissions. I'm going to close out with a couple of pictures I took of Dan's favorite species of all time. It's he loves to go out and see these birds, and we'll explain more next week on that. If you've seen the show enough, you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, you'll get to see Dan George's
Yeah, you'll see
favorite
him next year when he comes on.
favorite air quotes. So anyway, so you can get some fairly good pictures, and try and get some pictures, and Scott will put the email address in the chat. If you get a picture, and look, it doesn't have to be a professional Sheldon Fawarski photo. The picture you get is a great picture, and we'll take it and love to honor you by using it in our show. The email address is explorealliance@explorescientific.com. Looks like Scott's typing it in there right now. So anyway, any other comments you want to talk about, or you want me to go on to our next bird?
Go to the next bird.
The next bird, I've lost my tools. There they are. The next bird is the dark-eyed junco. All right. And this is a spectacular picture. Nice, tight. I really like it. It's a winter picture. I like these birds on the ground. I grew up calling them snowbirds because you could see them so well in the snow, and especially in winter, in the migration, when more and more birds showed up in the winter, especially after snow. Let's listen to this bird first. So there's a sample of the bird. Okay, so the dark-eyed junco, 5.5 to 6.3 inches long, smaller than a robin. A robin has become, I guess, one of those, in all the references, they reference the size of a robin. Okay. It's a bird with striking dark on top, light on the bottom. However, because of diet and other environmental factors, excuse me, there are huge color variations across North America. In winter, these birds typically forage on the ground, hopping around in search of forage on forest floors, lawns, and other open areas, generally breeding coniferous or mixed coniferous forest, in other words, evergreens of some sort, or mixed with hardwoods. Their song is simply a series of very high chip notes, as we heard. Let's talk a little bit more about color. There are 15 described races, in other words, colorations of birds, and 6 of those are easily recognizable. The other ones are very minute differences that take, a lot of observation and experience to be able to tell the color. So the ones I found were slate colored, which is predominant in the eastern United States and much of Canada. The Oregon colored, which has a dark hood with a warm brown back and rufous reddish brownish flanks, found mostly in the western United States. The white winged and pink sided generally found in the Rockies and Great Plains. The pink sided looks very similar apparently to the Oregon junco. And I look forward to getting Dan back on the show because he's going to have seen a lot of these other variations of birds because he lives out in Colorado. And then there's also the yellow-eyed, the red-backed, and the gray-headed all of the southwestern United States and down into Mexico. So these are beautiful birds. I love them. Love to see them when it's winter. They stand out because they're on the ground so much, and they stick out because of the white snow. So moving on to it is arguably.
Is this a is this bird a small bird?
It's 6 inches long, so not a huge bird. Bigger than a house sparrow.
Yeah.
Bigger than a house sparrow, but not as big as a robin.
I see.
So they're an intermediate sized bird, not a big bird. They travel in flocks generally. They flap around, they hop, but then they'll fly off and then fly back down. They're very, very fun bird to watch. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa,
all of those.
So the northern cardinal, oftentimes it's one of the birds that people say cause them to start birding. Maybe the best well-known and probably assuredly a beloved bird of the eastern part of the United States. It's a gorgeous bird that draws the eye. It's a spectacular red, and its glorious song, often sung from the tippy top of a tall, tall tree. Let's listen to its song first. When you hear a cardinal, there's no doubt about what it is. And there's 4 different calls it makes. So we got to listen to this a little bit to get to the one that I recognize the most. And by the way, this picture that Sheldon got is fantastic. It's just a glorious, glorious picture. He looks this male in this picture looks almost angry, but they're not angry birds. They're joyous birds. Here we go. That at the end of it is often hard to hear. And as you can hear here, you get birds calling back and forth to each other.
Mm-hmm. Very sharp and loud.
It's a very loud bird.
Yeah.
There's nothing subtle about this bird. From its color to its call.
Oh, beautiful.
So we got another minute and a half or so. So I won't play all this through because of the different songs. There was a catbird. Did you hear it?
Hissing sound.
Damn. There's a blue jay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I hear it. Jim wants to know, where did they go in the wintertime?
These birds don't migrate.
They just stick around.
They stick around and tough it out. This is the call that I'm used to, hearing in summertime, being in the backyard. Just that spectacular call right there. All right, so 8.3 to 9.1 inches long. So still slightly smaller than a robin, but a very large, sir.
Yeah. Still a good sized bird.
Good sized bird. These birds do not migrate, and they don't molt into dull plumage. When they molt into bright plumage. So they're obvious year round because of their coloration. The female, while not as a brilliant bright red as the male, holds its own. It is still a very attractive bird. I should have pulled a picture up of the female and didn't. My apology. Its light brown body is tinged in a reddish hue down its back and on its breast. It's got ruddy wings and red on the tip of its crown. It's got a bright red beak that sticks out in front of the same black mask that the male sports. The female is a beautiful bird in her own right. And the female also holds its own when it comes into the singing. Okay. At most female birds just go beep, chip, chip, cheep, chirp, and don't do a lot of singing. The female sings when she's on the nest.
Mm-hmm.
And the mated pairs share song phrases. Okay. So they'll sing the same phrase back to each other in slight variations.
Oh, that's cool.
However, the
Singing to
female,
each other.
yep, they're singing to each other, and the female can sing longer and has more complex songs than the male does. So I find that just fascinating, which explains why there's been times when I would hear a cardinal singing and never could find it because I was looking in the wrong place. I was looking on the tips of trees and, looking for the male. And now I know, because of this show and research for this, I had discovered that I was hearing females and wasn't looking for them because I couldn't see them because they're up in trees generally elevated above me. And you can't see them in the nest because they're sort of brownish and blend in the shadows. And that's why I would hear this cardinal singing. Turns out I learned something today from the show. And this is probably the most amazing one, is that I was hearing females up in the trees singing while they were on the nests. Males and females aggressively defend their territory at certain times of the year in the spring. Often we'll see them attacking their reflection in a reflective surface, a window, car bumper, a mirror, and they will go at it for hours trying to drive off the aggressor or the interloper, which it can't do because it is itself. As spring progresses, the hormone that causes that aggressive territorial nature begins to subside, and the territorial nature just goes away. However, there was one bird that was documented, I read, that kept doing it. I believe it was a female, kept the aggression going for 6 months before it finally stopped. Jeez. So she was an aggressive female and didn't give it up after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. These birds are easily attracted to feeders using sunflower seeds. They love sunflower seeds. If you want to keep them in your yard and attract them to your yard, as lots of other birds do, they forage in leaves under trees and along fence lines. So if you have a clean, pristine yard that's weed eated down to the fence, and you rake under every tree, then you're not going to attract birds. Leaves, places to hide, all create things that will attract birds to your yard. And a perfect, pristine, groomed yard can have birds, but there's a better way.
You have caged birds, I guess, so.
And does the caged cardinal sing, I wonder? I bet he would. So
I wouldn't.
I would not want to, for sure. I guess you would, because your soul is still there. And Scott, I think you are you, no matter what kind of cage you might be.
Maybe.
Ensconced in. So anyway, beautiful cardinal, one of my favorite birds. So, and ending up with a Terry Stanfield photo of an ebony jewel-winged damselfly. So we all think this is a, you see them and you think, okay, that's a dragonfly. It's a damselfly. I may do a show one of these days because they are on the wing.
It must be related, though.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. I think I'll do a show on damselflies and dragonflies at some point next year. It'll be an interesting journey for us to learn. So I'm going to share in. Here I am back again. And I know I'm needing a haircut. People are probably commenting left and right that I'm becoming a hippie.
Oh yeah,
I am.
everybody here said that, what happened to Ken.
I could almost get a ponytail up and back.
Right. Yeah, we
So
can barely see your eyes with the bangs hanging down.
I know. Yeah. So hopefully
There were some comments. There were some comments about the Cardinals. Norm Hughes thinks that the female Cardinals are beautiful. Tarek out of the UAE says, Norm, mostly the male is more beautiful than female in birds. He also said that, and then Mike Wiesner said, we see the Cardinals a lot here in Arizona. Some even play football in the National Football League. Okay.
And they used to be in St. Louis.
Okay. And then Tarek says, excuse me, but maybe some of the birds, the female is prettier than the male. Well, maybe that's possible, or indistinguishable from male and female.
Right. Those are called monomorphic, meaning the male and female are indistinguishable. So here we go. I am going to share a picture of a female.
Okay.
A spectacular bird.
What is that?
This is a Terry Stanfield photo of a bird in its winter plumage. The Cardinals' plumage really doesn't change much. This was taken out at the Eagle Watch Nature area by our dearly departed benefactor who graced us with his beautiful wildlife photography. But it's a beautiful bird.
That's a cardinal.
That's a female cardinal.
That is beautiful. I love all the color variation.
Yeah. I mean, I like, especially start looking at, you've got to study these things a little bit to really see them. Like, just looking at it, you don't notice, but look above its eye. There's a red slash above its eye.
Yeah.
And look at the top of its crown, that it's and the red in the wings and on the tail. The female holds its own. Now, she's certainly not as showy as that red tuxedoed male, but in her party dress, she is still,
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, just a beautiful female bird.
Like exotic, so.
Yeah. There's a couple of really exotic looking cardinals, and the Pahuxia or something Phyhuxia, that, hopefully one of our viewers in the Southwest can get a picture of, because they're birds of the Southwest, and they're really take the female cardinal we're looking at and really jazz up the colors. And that's sort of what it looks like. But yeah, the female is again, just a spectacular female bird.
Harold Locke's party dress. It looks tropical. It does.
It does.
It does.
I mean, I had a great friend of mine, and when I was covering the city council years and years and years ago, he walked in a red leisure suit, and I've always thought of him as a cardinal, basically. And John was a really great guy, who was a fascinating individual. And getting off subject, but I honor him with this. He was there was two projects that had the secrecy level of the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb. The other one was developing the proximity fuse, and he worked at Johns Hopkins University, and was on the team to develop the proximity fuse that caused anti-aircraft shells to be more accurate. But he had some acreage just behind the Supercenter in Bentonville, and it was a bird paradise, and he loved birds. He wasn't a bird watcher, but he just loved to do things, to not take care of his land to attract birds. So anyway, enough of that, enough sadness. So, but he showed up in this bright red suit. When he walked in, I thought, gee, many Christmas, that's a human cardinal right there. And, so anyway, anything else, Scott? There gotta be more.
There was just people talking about the Cardinals and how beautiful they are. And Harold Locke says the Cardinals are beautiful and have a lot of mythology about them. It'd be interesting to learn more about mythology, maybe from Native Americans or something, that would be very cool. Let's see. Egon Reich says, in the last 3 years here in Southern California, the birds have just been gone. It seems so sad, but for whatever reason, this last summer, we had a big increase in beautiful finches, hummingbirds, and bright colored larks. We felt so blessed, and we had so many back in our yard. We also planted a lot of milkweed and had a lot of butterflies as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's cool.
That's something. Those are also flying birds. We tend to think of this as a bird show, but those things fly too. We need to get Charles Peak on sometime in the wintertime to get some of Charles's monarch butterfly. He has a lot. He and his wife have a lot of milkweed, and they raise monarch butterflies. And he's got some great video. He is a Weather Channel photographer, videographer who lives here in Springdale. But when you see a big snow come in, he's their drone person. And so if you're seeing drone footage from a Weather Channel person, like when the tornadoes hit in Kentucky, he was already, I think, in Northeast Arkansas. And a lot of the drone footage you've seen, if you watch the Weather Channel, is from Charles Peak, who is a great friend of the company as well. So we'll have to get him on sometime before tornado season strikes, and that little lull between winter and tornado season. So anyway,
when is that? It seems like all year is tornado season anymore.
Yeah, well, anymore, that's true. I mean, look at this. It was a week before Christmas. We had a bad tornado. There was years ago, there was a tornado that hit Cincinnati, Arkansas, which is a little bitty town west and south of here, that killed 2 or 3 people. It was on New Year's Day, and a weird dead of the winter tornado. And it's just,
like a snow wrapped tornado.
No, it was like these storms we had that created all the tornadoes that hit. It was a weird spring-like day.
Yeah.
Like in December, we had a weird spring-like day, and we had a tornado that killed 80 or 90 people. You don't hear about that anymore. Tornadoes used to be lots of people, but there was a bunch of people got killed. Weird, doesn't happen anymore. So anyway, enough sadness. This is joy, but we're glad the birds came back, most assuredly. We all need to be doing our part to have decorative, messy yards. You can't let it go to a shambles because your neighbors will get mad, but there's little things you can do that make a big impact and have great birds. So I also want to say thanks. We should have said this yesterday too, when I didn't think about it. Scott, I know you got some emails and texts from people asking about the tornadoes and were we all okay? I had probably 10 or 15 people either Facebook message or text me or email me. And I really, folks, thank you for those heartfelt expressions of concerns, because it just, people, that just sort of, know us from the show. And it just was really touching to get those areas of concern for people that know me through the show. So thank everybody for that as well.
Right.
So anyway, next week.
We do appreciate it. And Harold Locke also says, Ken, it's cool. It's great to hear your thoughts about our great friends that have left us. They're always in our hearts. So
for sure.
Excellent.
So anyway, next week. Okay, so I'll give it up. So next week is viewer submissions and the contest. We probably need to publicize both of those contests a little bit, Scott, on Facebook and some of the other platforms, try and get people to come and competition, because we know none of our friends that view all the time, they want to cut the viewership out to increase their chances of winning the binoculars. I don't believe that. Spread the word. Hey, seriously, spread the word about our shows on your social media feeds. If you enjoy this content, getting more and more people just encourages us to do this more and more. And we're trying to get better and come up with new things to do. The week after that, during today's show, I talked about the differences in the chickadees. The week between 2 weeks from now, on the what that'd be the 29th, I think it is. So 2 Thursdays from now, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the chickadee and how to try and distinguish those two birds. I've been researching this for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to take a deep dive like we did into the purple finch, house finch. How do you tell these birds apart? So we'll take a deep dive into the chickadee in 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll be back tomorrow with Focus on Astrophotography with Tyler Bowman. Take care, keep looking up, and keep your eye on the sky for more birds.